Now, for more on the stimulus debate, we're going to turn now to two members of the House of Representatives who will vote tomorrow on the package. Republican Darrell Issa of California, he's the ranking Republican on the House Oversight Committee, and Democrat Dennis Kucinich of Ohio, also a member of the Oversight Committee and a member of the House Education and Labor Committee. Thanks to both of you for joining us. Congressman Issa, you heard the president today behind those closed doors. Did he convince you to back his plan?
No, not at all. Unfortunately, his unwillingness to get into the details of why certain parts of the $825 billion that won't even be spent for 2, 3, or 4 years were so important to be passed in a hurry led me to believe that this is about putting money in a piggy bank that'll be doled out over the next several years, including in a presidential re-election year.
And so you were not convinced that his effort to reach out across the aisle was a sincere effort? You don't think he's willing to accept some changes?
No, I think what he told Eric Cantor the other day is probably the sincere effort. Is he wants to reach across the aisle, but he won the election, and I think that unfortunately begs the question of, are there good answers in both parties? I think there are. I think certainly that we should be looking at taxes more because it's immediate relief, and spending less because ultimately targeted spending that takes 2 or 3 years can arrive exactly when it's no longer needed.
Congressman Kucinich, how about the president's actions today? Do you support his decision to meet with House Republicans before he even met with House Democrats on this?
I think it's important for the president to reach out to both sides of the aisle. I also know that he knows that we've got to try to get America back to work with unemployment at 7.2% nationally, and in some places, in some states, it's over 10%. We have to do everything we can to try to get money into the economy right now. I share some of the concerns that Mr. Issa has about whether the spending is going to be later, but the fact of the matter is the Obama administration is faced with a certitude that if it doesn't do everything it can to stimulate the economy, and I maintain that this $825 billion is just the beginning, if we don't stimulate the economy, get money into people's hands, we can only look at a downward trajectory. And again, you're speaking as someone who voted against the bailouts, because I think that giving the money to banks is the wrong idea. We ought to be giving money to people and trying to create jobs and rebuild America.
Congressman Kucinich, let me pick up on giving the money to people. There's been a lot of criticism on the Republican side about the key tax component here, this tax reduction for individuals, for families, $500, $1,000. Everyone says, yes, it'd be nice to do that, but there's no guarantee that that would actually be that stimulative to the economy right now. What's your own take on that?
Well, you know, $185 billion would go to individual tax relief, and there is a question as to whether or not people are going to spend the money. I mean, that's consumer behavior we saw was slowing down during the holiday seasons. We can only hope that people will start to circulate it. But what I favor, you know, those infrastructure programs, that old-time religion of the New Deal, of rebuilding roads, bridges, water system, sewer system, get America back to work. I think a payroll tax cuts are helpful. But we've got to find a way to get money into people's hands. Unemployment insurance, but that helps people who are out of work. We've got to get America back to work. Get people back to work.
Congressman Issa, how about that? It's the spending component, the $550 billion here that's going to be spent on the new electricity grid of the future, highways, things like that. Those have worked in the past and they'll work this time. Do you disagree with that?
Well, look, I have no problem with what's going to go on in the next 18 months. The problem is only a small fraction of this spending for highways and bridges and so on will happen in the next 18 months. With the Corps of Engineers, it's about $5 billion a year. It's almost a rounding error. I'll give you an example of something, though, that isn't in the bill. Your next interview is all about DTV. You know, the cost of the coupons that seem to be in short supply is in the millions, not even the billions, and yet we're delaying, and this did come up in conference, we're delaying the conversion that took decades to work out to digital television, something that's going to cost businesses literally millions and millions of dollars a week, because they're going to be broadcasting both digital and analog. There are lots of places in which money, if you want to spend it, can immediately help the economy, and I hope the president will look for those opportunities, including not delaying the digital conversion, but rather put a small amount of the stimulus package right into making sure people get their converter boxes, but we not delay the rollout of all digital here in America.
Congressman Kucinich, where do you think there is some middle ground from this president and from Democrats even? Where are you willing to cede a little bit to Congressman Issa and his colleagues to try and get more of those votes?
Well, first of all, I think the middle ground was on the question of tax cuts, and so the president made that concession already. But I think that in order to move the economy, we need to do something now. Now, President Obama is taking the risk that it's not going to be enough as soon as we need it. But the fact of the matter is that Congress has to vote to try to stimulate the economy. I favor not only the package that we have, but a universal pre-kindergarten program and universal health care to get people the help that they need to help the American family. You know, I'm looking at these, you know, we've given, and I think we agreed on this, $700 billion to banks. There's another $1 trillion in the works that is supposed to come our way to ask to give to the banks again. Look, we have to start taking care of the American people. Our economy is crashing down in the American family, and we have to make sure that we put money in their hands and create jobs. I see the stimulus package as being one small step, but frankly, it's only a small step.
Congressman Issa, do you agree with Congressman Kucinich that it's just a matter of time until you all get another request for more TARP money, something above the $700 billion you've already handed out?
Absolutely. From the time that Dennis and I both opposed the TARP bailout because it wasn't well conceived and we didn't believe they were going to do what they said they were going to do, and of course they never did. Not one penny went into buying up these so-called toxic assets, and it's very clear that in a $55 trillion debt market, the first $700 billion is going to completely evaporate, and they will be back, essentially taking the sins of the past, which was cheap money, and replacing it with this free money. And you know, free money displaces all other money, and that's part of the reason that these dollars are drying up with no result. Is every smart banker is waiting for government money rather than going out to the normal debt and equity market, because it doesn't make any sense to go there when the money from the government is much better money to get.
Meanwhile, you have millions of Americans losing their homes.
Absolutely.
It just doesn't make any sense.
An area of agreement between Congressman Issa, Congressman Kucinich, some concerns still about the TARP. Gentlemen, thanks very much. We'll be watching the vote tomorrow.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.